Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Joe.
And I'm ready.
This is episode 140 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. How's it going?
Very good, actually. Worked hard in the yard. Did all the cool yard stuff today. Worked out this morning. Feeling good.
So you're still not working.
Not for 3 more months, brother. This is the longest break I've ever had, and I think I'm in love with it. It's fabulous.
Well, when I was off for 3 weeks, my customers on my route thought I had changed routes.
No,
They're like, "Hey, you're back," and they're all very supportive. And one lady said, "Oh, it was good for you. You deserved having 3 weeks off." And I was like,
yes, you did. It was cool. And then you got a long weekend last weekend.
Yeah, and I'll have a long weekend this weekend.
You do?
Well, not Friday, Saturday, but
Memorial Day
plus the day after.
You guys coming to the cookout?
I will talk to Jenny.
You should come. It'll be fun. Dogs and chicken, baby. And then whatever you guys want to bring. Debbie said if you come, she'd love to have the green stuff.
Oh, okay.
If you're
involved. Well, we've got our planned topics today, but we have a super surprise special guest.
Yes, we're
going to bring on in a minute.
Yep.
But first, let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, subscribe if you haven't already done that here on YouTube and on Rumble. We are live streaming to both platforms. It looks like we're good on both. Rumble still is a little odd with how it starts out. It takes a long time to cycle from YouTube from StreamYard into Rumble. It's a more of a delay, but that's fine. I think we're getting that all worked out. You can, if you want to support this show, you can go over to Rumble and do a Rumble rant. You can't on your phone if you're listening on your phone, unfortunately, but you have to be in a browser.
I believe Patty of Patty Parlors found out the hard way last week. Couldn't do it.
Yeah,
she's on a computer.
So you can do that, or you can go. I'll put some links in the description for other methods, but that's the most immediate way to get us some dougage if that's what you want to do.
Yes.
So we played over the weekend.
We did. I was wondering if we should chat about that during the campaign analysis portion or talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we both got to play, which is great. So how about we do this? We're going to bring on our super special surprise last minute guest.
Drum roll, please.
Hey. Welcome.
Oh, hey, I don't know if I'm a super special. Well, my mom tells me that I'm super special.
You're super special to us.
Oh, thanks, Randy. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Yeah.
We always joke that, Ryan David doesn't do the YouTube thing, and here we are. So.
Here we are.
I've been seeing you around on certain shows, T-shirt and a few others. We played on T-shirts.
We did, and then he bumped the time backwards, and that was rough. So
It's great. He did that for me, so I felt kind of bad. And I thought he asked me, he goes, "Are you going to play this week?" And I'm like, I didn't realize I was invited back again. I need to get back hanging out. That was fun. Whatever. I know it's over. I saw that it was over, but the particular game we were playing, did it go well? I haven't watched the last video.
I don't know. Ever since the time got pushed back, that really crunches me on Saturday because we record for Nerdcognito, or on Sundays rather. We record for Nerdcognito Sunday nights, and I am almost exclusively on dad duty on the weekends. So it's tough. The times that I have weekend time to get on streams or get on shows, I have to really schedule out on the weekends. So
what's your regular job, if I can ask?
I work in software. I was a public school educator for 20 years, and just with the political climate of public school, I saw it decline over pretty much 15 of my 20 years.
Yeah.
And I said it was time to go, and I was fortunate enough to have a bunch of contacts because I taught computers and engineering, and I had enough contacts that I was able to parlay that into a user experience job in the software industry. So I'm still like an administrator, just for clients instead of students, and they're paying for it, so they can give a damn.
I saw the writing on the wall about 5 years in, but that was I was probably teaching before you, I would imagine. It was
just a little bit. I'm very jealous because the one thing that I had to say bye-bye to was my summers.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's so far in the rearview mirror now that it doesn't matter. And when I look at the other advantages and the sanity and my mental health, it was a decent trade. And really, I only lost about a week and a half when I stack up the time that I have, and I'm valuable. So I really enjoy what I do, and the other reason I left was physical. I don't often talk about it, but about 6-7 years ago, I got a multiple sclerosis diagnosis.
Oh my!
And I was with Bert from my show. It was New Year's Eve. We were having a small get together at my house. About an hour before the ball dropped, it was like someone flipped a switch, and I went blind in my left eye. Oh. And that's how we found out. So, obviously that came back with some intense steroid treatment, but since then my physical mobility, I still walk, right? I still move around. There are days where I'll need a cane, but it's not great, and chasing around anyone in a K-12 classroom for 7.5 hours a day wasn't the thing for me. So it was good all the way around for both mental and physical health. It's scary, right? Yeah. Randy, you know this. As educators, we're driven in. Oh, you've got this healthcare, you've got this pension, you've got this, that, and the other. And it's all I knew in my professional life up to that. When I was a youngin', when I was young, I had this pipe dream that I was going to be on the radio, and I did that for a little bit, and I worked for a television company for a little bit, but my true professional career was education at first, and now education in software now. So
yeah, I had started taught 5 years in high school, got my master's degree, went into teaching, thought that's what I wanted, and then I realized I saw things happening, which unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, I'm seeing it now in the community college level, which is pretty sad. It's pretty sad, dude. It's pretty sad all the way around. It's not.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say my first jump, the gap, between the classroom. I was in a post-secondary institution, and it was starting to seep in there.
Yeah. And
that's when I said, no, I've got to go into industry. I was always a conniving capitalist anyhow, so it makes sense. And then,
capitalist.
My first year in software, I made more than I did ever as an educator. So,
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yep. I was told for the longest that I should go into radio, but everybody I talked to said it was kind of a dying industry in a way because of syndication This one fellow was telling me how they would make a program, and they just throw it on a CD and ship it around.
Yep.
So even though there may be as many or more stations, it's often the same programming.
It is, and I don't know in your market, but there's one in every market. You know, it's Jim FM or Bob FM or
Joe
those,
FM.
So you have one.
Yeah.
They, unless it is a significant market, they're generally non-jock. So it's just completely automated, or they'll have 1 or 2 jocks that cut everything over 2 or 3 days, and they're really only getting a part-time paycheck with no benefits. So
Wow.
I made the decision my junior year in undergrad, because I'm a fool. Like, I come from a family of educators, and I have master's degrees, and my mother has a bunch of master's degrees and the PhD, and will never let me live down that I dropped out of law school. I always joke, I'm the law school dropout, but it's true. I realized my junior year in undergrad that I didn't want to bounce around the country every 2 years unless I did hit the lottery. And it's like anything else in entertainment. It is hitting the lottery. So,
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
I went for that stable career in the classroom.
Well, I went for the military. And,
Well, I applaud you, because I would have never been. It's not my cut, and I respect the hell out of that, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, it's no longer my calling, but in any event, we are here to talk about players in our tabletop games.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about the DM's job,
Mm-hmm.
which is to be an entertainer, correct?
Apparently, that's what some folks think.
Apparently that's what.
Is it?
There
Is
was
it?
not on the show, but yeah, on the different. I think there's a group of people that just think it's the DM's job. It's our job to make you have fun and
Tap dance.
I can't do
funny
it.
voices.
Dance monkey, I guess.
Yeah. But this week we're flipping the script and talking about the player's job.
Yep.
And so it's the player's job.
Are you sure you guys want me tonight?
Oh, let's do it. It'll be fun.
Yeah. We're good. We're good. We have a list of things here.
Now,
number one.
Before you start, Joe, caveat, I did get it off of Geek and Sundry, part of it, small part of it, but I added a bunch of the others.
You should never take anything off of Geek.
I know that. It was like several years back, so. Most of
Even
them
several years back.
just got
I tried to watch Geek and Sundry, and it was so laden with, or so bereft of testosterone. Always has been, in my estimation. Anyway, don't be a jerk now, unless it's what your character would do.
That's what my character would do, is be an asshat. Yeah,
He's chaotic evil. He can be a jerk. No, but don't be a jerk.
Mhm.
We're all supposed to be sitting at the table, being friendly, and having fun. If you're going to just be a jerk, you might as well just not show up.
I was enamored in 3rd edition. Well, I just moved to Michigan from Indiana when 3rd edition came out. And I was enamored of the idea that maybe some folks can do this. I have a hard time. It's not a hard time. I can play with almost anybody. I can jump in a group. I can have a good time. But I want to play with my friends. And honestly, if I play with people for a little while, I want us to become friends. I mean, I really can't imagine just playing in a group and us just showing up to play, and that's the only association we have. I can't even envision that, how that would be.
I have a couple of tables, and one of them is very much that. And it's weird. It's different, right? Because every other group, and gaming throughout my life, I've formed lifelong friendships, right? My core group is a group of guys that goes back as far as 30 years. And of course, people move, jobs change, seats get emptied and then refilled. but the general core group, I've known Bert since I was that undergrad in college that thought I might be on the radio. I agree that I want people to be my friends, but I also think we have to recognize when people aren't going to be our friends, right?
Oh, sure.
And Randy, you played in a handful of sessions in our Sunday group
Yep.
that was on with T-shirt.
Mhm.
I am not starting anything, but there is a player, and I will not name him or her,
Mhm.
but there is a player that if I know they're on in advance, I'm not clearing my schedule to play because it's not fun, and I don't want to start that drama.
Right.
You know, their style, their humor, just them as a person rubs my rhubarb, and I'm not gonna subject myself to that because it is my fun time. I have a lot on my plate across the board, and when I can sit down and game, gosh darn it, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Okay.
Right. I think since over the years you curate a group, and that's your best bet. Some people call it gatekeeping, and
I
that's
do,
fine.
and I say
That's
that
fine.
with pride. Gatekeeping
Right.
is good because you are keeping your corner of the hobby. That doesn't mean that
Your
they can't
table.
have their corner.
Sure.
It just means
sure.
that we're keeping our corner.
Right. We got to gatekeep your table for sure.
And that right now,
That's all I can do.
if you're playing a character that is a little abrasive or whatever, that's fine. But don't use it as the don't be a jerk is your interpersonal real relationships.
Right.
You can have an evil player character who goes and stabs babies
Right.
first thing in the morning.
Right.
And that's pretty much a jerk, I would say, at least. And but towards each other at the table, that's pretty much frowned upon everywhere. No stabbing each other.
Mr. Boivan, reactionary gamer, says, I don't play with people who hate me. I'm also going to star one of his comments. I don't know if you want to put that up yet, Joe. It's pretty good. It's kind of a long one, but I started. He's hit some of the things up there. Yeah. Okay.
That one?
Yeah. That's
one?
That's a good one.
The job of the player is to role play his character. Be on time. Don't go. Don't do out of game talk during the game. Listen to the GM and other players at the table. Yeah, those are all cool to one degree or another. Everybody has. Some people want you to talk in character as soon as your butt hits the seat, and you don't talk out of character until the game is over. Some people are very strict with that. I'm not.
No. I can't. I mean, it'd be with our table. It'd be like herding cats anyway.
Right. We are all Monty Python.
We have a lot of that.
Wannabes. So it's hard to not be that way. But it's not for everybody. Some people aren't like that, and that's fine at their table. Oh, hey, Death Dog, thank you for the rant over on Rumble. I can probably let me try to share that.
Oh, can you share it?
I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm there, but I can't share anything, so I don't have the power. You have the power on Rumble. I do not. Yes.
It's not a Chrome tab. Let me do this, and let me do.
I think one thing while Joe's doing this, I'm gonna go to the next one. Oh, my God!
You can't really see it very well, and we're kind of off. This is Inception level stuff going on here. Yeah, see, Inception. And pretty soon it's going to switch over in the other screen and the other screen. I better stop it before the world blows apart. But yes, definitely. Thank you, Death Dog, over on Rumble for your $10 rant. All he says is it works. I think he's answering your show coming through question. So yes, it works.
Mr. Boban said he lost points for typos. I said, not if you can solve this equation. And then Martin stepped in and solved it.
we can translate chat typos very well here, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's being a jerk to curate your table. There's a lot of other ways to be a jerk. But yes, he has a good point there. Learn the rules of your character. You need to know how your character works
Yes.
within a certain time frame. So if it's a new system, like we just started Hyperborea over the weekend and had a great time. And we didn't give each other guff about not knowing certain things. We just rolled with it. We didn't use all the rules because there are a lot. I looked afterwards. There's a lot of optional combat rules that we didn't use, but it still was very smooth and fun. But at some point, you need to know how your character works. It makes the play go much better, and it's respectful for everybody at the table. You're not slowing down for everybody else.
Gotcha. Darth just made a comment. I'm not sure. Is it to us? I will harp on that topic. I see things change. It's one of his biggest pet peeves. I'm not sure what he means.
I was about to say something to that effect. And he could absolutely tell me that I'm full of it and I'm not on the same page as him. But is it strange that we have to have this conversation today where we didn't have to have it 15, 20 years ago?
It's kind of understood. It was just the way we did things.
You weren't a jerk. You knew you were coming to play a game. You understood the people that you were with. Is this a, I guess, passive result of us aging? I don't want to say aging out, but aging in the hobby. And that new blood, that very special segment that I so love.
Dude, if you told me I had that shirt on, I knew you were coming in. I'd have had that shirt.
Are they possibly the pervasive reason why we even have this conversation now? And I get a lot of crap for picking on them, but really, if I look at all of the changes, there's one catalyst that I keep coming back to. So yeah, I have fun picking, and I'm not going to stop. But really, we didn't need these conversations before. And if someone was some sort of waffle at your table, they were gone.
Yeah, I was going to say back in the day, man, we didn't put up a lot of stuff. But I think
people got it. Maybe they. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Randy.
I was saying Darth is on a different place, but that's a good point. One job of a player that I see is very important. Players should have at least read about his or her character class. I have seen more than one player that is. Yeah, that annoys the crap out of me. It's fine in a new game as we build comfort and you guys get comfortable with it. But after a while, at least read your character class. By the time you're
right, and you should know what genre you're in. So if you're sitting down to a medieval thing, you should know and be prepared for that. Even with us, with Hyperborea, it's not specifically medieval fantasy. It's more episodic swords and sorcery, more akin to Conan, and with the little extra slice of Cthulhu and a little bit of a dash of sci-fi.
Yeah.
And if you don't know or you don't have time to do your homework, you don't take a front row spot and you get a feel for it at the table. There's nothing wrong with that too.
Correct.
Right? We just started a new system for our core group too. We're giving a shot to the 2D20 Fallout game, right? We wanted something different, something not fantasy. So we said Fallout, and we've got one of our guys, again, lifelong friend, 30 years, never played a Fallout game, which took me by surprise. But he, said, I'm going to just read the front chapter and sit back while you guys create a character and listen. And he's skilled enough that he can pump out the character in no time. And that's what he did. And he created what effectively would be a textbook character for that universe with no prior knowledge, just with common sense.
Yeah. I want to kind of go back to what you said, because it brought something to me. And I think Rambler had a comment. He said, the tourists need everything spelled out to them by Daddy Watsy and Uncle Paizo. That might be it. I wonder if it's not just the tourists, since 5e has blown up and become so popular. I wonder, too, when you talk about the sparkly ones, I kind of wonder if we never had a chance to even stop them.
Because we did, and we passed.
You think so? Where?
I do, because we took the approach of, They're doing different stuff. They're not for us. They're not going to come to my table. But who are we? Because we get vilified as this group that wants to, just homogenize the hobby, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We allowed them in. We put the camel's nose under the tent, and now we're surprised that the whole camel is there because we were taught, and if I'm going into political realm that you guys don't want me to, shut me up. But we were taught, we don't see color, we don't see differences, we don't care who is in your bedroom, right? See, I'm being so good for you guys too. but
You don't have our feelings.
No. I respect the house that I'm in, right? But again, it's that sort of thing. We respected the house that we were in, and our approach was, if we want, if you want to do that, go have at it. You want to role play being kittens? Go have at it. And we allowed it instead of saying, no, that's not quite what it is. Maybe this isn't the place for you. That doesn't mean there's not a place for you, but maybe this isn't the place for you. And then it snowballed, and it snowballed, and it snowballed, and it snowballed. And now we've got a huge segment of people that don't buy anything and politicize everything, that is destroying some of the core principles, specifically of Dungeons and Dragons, and generically of the hobby in general. So,
yeah,
I take responsibility for my share of personal blame for their existence.
I don't know if maybe. I'm not sure how we could have stopped them except at our own tables. That's the thing, right?
And we didn't in mass, and that was the problem. We talked about jobs, right? I have a minor ownership stake in one of the few surviving gaming stores in the area. We didn't stop them there. We didn't stop them in our basements. In your mom's basement, we didn't stop them there. We allowed it, and then, like all good fungus, it just multiplied.
Well, I think that as long as we don't, I think we can just stick to our guns and keep talking and playing. And at some point, many of these people are just going to lose interest and move on. I hope. I do too. I can't say for sure, but that's the hope. Because at this point, the toothpaste is out of the tube, and only thing we can do is what we are doing. I mean, we can't go to everybody's house and bust the door down like a bunch of Pinkertons and so to speak, and allegedly keep people from playing a game, allegedly playing D&D, but we can't do that. So
allegedly,
the only thing we can do is pass on our values to others, and hope that it takes.
Dungeon Minister says, I do think a player has a responsibility to say yes to the game. Like if you see the DM has clearly poured a load of work into a session, just blowing it off is rude. I'm not sure how they would see that, and I don't disagree with that, but I also don't know how the player would know how much work you put in. And I feel like my players knew I killed myself to get a full session. I think they would do their best to be there. But I don't know. I'm not sure how they would know that.
Right, because I think I've had equally great, stellar sessions as a DM where I have prepped out the wazoo, or where I just winged it. One of my most memorable sessions in my life, I had zero prep. I almost canceled it because I had 7 guys coming over.
Right.
And I had nothing. And it was the best session I ever ran.
I hear those stories a lot, and I've done it, but I always like, oh gosh, I'm like, I can't just, some guys just can do that all the time, but I'm a crazy prepper. That's the truth.
You're a control freak is what it is.
Fair enough. That's probably a good call.
All good DMs are, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you're lying.
Yeah. Our man also made this comment earlier. Players should pay attention during the game. Painting miniatures, cooking dinner during a game is not cool. Pertains mostly, online play. Yeah, see, I don't do that much. That's weird to me.
What about these?
Oh boy.
Well, if you're running your character off of it and aren't distracted by other things, and you're engaged in the play, who cares? It's when your head's down into your thing, and you're like, "Oh, hold on a second, I'm answering a text." You know,
I used to have
that
the
can be
phone
an issue.
chest. When you walked in, you put it in the chest, and unless you had a loved one that was ill or some extenuating circumstance, you didn't go to the chest. I've loosened up on that lately, and lately being within the last year, but it drives me nuts. I almost great guy, good friend, but when he started at my table, he was always doing some sort of like clicker game on his phone, and
Oh,
it
well,
drove
no,
me
that's no good.
insane. It drove me insane. So
Now, I'll make a comment on the other side. My last game was great. I was all prepped and ready, then left all of it at home. I pulled what I needed up on my phone. I'm not saying you can't use your phone, but I kind of agree with Ryan and Joe here. I'll be honest with you. During the latter part of 3.5, which Joe and I were big third edition 3.5 players, path. We did it all, and I was getting to the point where I was so aggravated with the phone, and I brought up the idea of saying, and I brought it to Joe because he's a guy I bounce ideas off. I trust his opinion. And basically he said, I don't think it's a good idea because you're not supposed to be the mom and dad. But there are people I know that I'm less inclined to invite to my table because they're way too distracted by that object, which tells me they're not that interested in gaming. That's what it tells me. Not everybody. That's what I don't do it very often. I don't invite them because I know that's what it is.
Right, that's curating your table. So if you
Yes.
got a table full of folks and they're all engaged in the story, if they happen to have their phone sitting on the table, but there's nothing going on, who cares? Mine's usually in my pocket.
that's fine. It's a watch, right?
Yeah. So you're good. It all depends on what the play is like at the table.
Yeah.
Your third one here is build characters that get along well in group environment. Like I don't have a whole group full of loners. I'm a loner. I am Batman.
Lone Wolf McQuaid. Everybody is. Yeah. I think that's
Try to do things that are not just fun for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hit me.
Obviously, it's a group experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you do have the group of lone wolves, then that shifts back to the DM, because the DM has to create an environment or a scenario that forces them to work together. So I think that that's a very iffy balance that we have to consider.
I would say this. I would be more inclined to produce scenarios that kill them as they wander off by themselves, thinking they can survive by themselves.
Oh, and I'm all on board with that.
On a harsh D&D world. And you know, I don't mind it. I think you can play kind of a lone wolf, Wolverine type guy that doesn't want to be part of the group, but you're going to be part of the group.
Right.
And I kind of would want someone to meta that. I'd say, look, my dude's going to be rough. He kind of thinks he's a loner. I'm not going to be a loner. Every time I'm going to agree to do the mission. And I've had a really bad experience I've talked about before about a guy that came to the table, and I couldn't believe this. And it was mostly due, probably 80% due to the fact that my wife was playing. But he basically threw the gauntlet down and told the players, you either go with my wife Deb's character or with me. It was me or her. And I was like, dude, you do realize she's my wife and this is my table. And it was funny because one of the players before I even said it was like, we're not choosing against the dungeon master's wife. I don't know what you think. That's what he said. If we're choosing, you're out. And he did. His character sat in the bar the whole adventure.
And so be it. He was bored and never came back, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or
he actually asked me to DM his group. And I'm like, no. That was weird. Yeah.
Well, it's another case of to each his own.
Yes.
You know, if you want to play the lone wolf that's always causing friction, we always have to pull a BA to bring you into the adventure. If you're not familiar with what pulling a BA is, it's a reference to the A team where they had to spike BA Baracus milk to get him to go anywhere. And on a plane, he didn't like planes. But the occasional thing is one thing. But if every turn is a struggle to get you the loner to do something cooperative, then bye.
But again, like Randy said, even if it's not spoken, what if the understanding is that's what this archetype is, but he's still going to play ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm on board with it. If you got a guy that's just got main character syndrome, I absolutely agree. You're going to off him. I don't even know if I'd roll the dice.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, if you're too much of a difficult guy and they get tired of trying to convince you, they may just leave you. And Killraven back, I agree with what he said. People forget that Wolverine is a part of nearly every team in Marvel. He has been. And Batman has his extended family, the Justice League, and the Outsiders. Yeah, so even lone wolves really have good lone wolves.
Right. People
in a game, you have to be a team player.
People adopt those personas with the misunderstanding that the loner that those people are often have to put aside that tendency to get certain things done because it requires a group. And then they go off and do their loner things when they can. But some things must have more people. They must have help with some things. And they have to just kind of grit their teeth and insult people a little bit here and there. And, like Wolverine does.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do end up participating in a group and then they're just grumpy.
Yeah.
1 XP bonus for throwing a bub.
Right. And even though these folks are grumpy, Batman doesn't do things because he's a loner that might cause a little personal friction within his superhero friends, but it doesn't endanger missions.
And the Bat, the original Bat,
generally speaking,
I'm not sure what they're doing now, but the Bat, when I read 80s, 90s, a little bit in the 70s too, even the early 2000s, he would go it alone because he felt it was the best decision and he was most effective. But when he needed the team, he used the team. He didn't try to defeat Darkseid by himself.
And he kept the team at a distance for their safety, not because he didn't want help, but because he knew that the harder path would keep his friends safe.
Yeah. And I think, especially most of my experiences with Dungeons and Dragons or its variants, I think it would be cool to have a guy that starts out difficult to work with and he learns the value of his teammates and eventually becomes, quote unquote, their protector. That would be kind of cool, But yeah, some people though, they just they always build those characters in. I don't like the idea. If I'm playing a game, I don't want to have to convince your character every time to go do the stuff you're planning on doing. If you don't want to go, we'll leave you.
It gets old.
Yeah.
We convince you a couple of times, and then by then you should know the drill. All right, I gotta do it. And if you,
that's grumpy for
the next time you're difficult, when we find some place that's really steep, with spiky things at the bottom of it, we might nudge you over. Your character, not you. So know what you want to do on your turn, especially mainly in tense situations such as combat. Pay attention during such moments. So don't get surprised when it comes up to your turn and say, "Oh, what's going on?" So that comes with that's just a kind of RPG play 101. When it's your turn, be ready.
There are some players though that just can't seem to be ready on their turn. I mean, not every single time, but they're always either flipping through a book or they're like, I'm not sure what I want to do. And a lot of times it's not like, I don't know my turn's coming. It's not like, I've rarely seen a player that was shocked it was their turn. But I have seen players that are like, flip, flip, flip. I'm not sure, especially casters, especially back in 3rd edition with all the spells and all the options they're doing this back and forth stuff. I'm like, dude, just do something or you don't have to do something.
Right. Analysis paralysis is a real thing. I had one group that was running at the local gaming store that had 2 that suffered with that. And we talked about it, and the cure was simultaneous declaration of action. We still had initiative. Everyone declared their action, round robin, and then we resolved. So it sort of forced it. It wasn't ideal. Some people really like that. I didn't, but it was best for that particular group. And again, I don't think that that's the solution for all of them. Some folks just aren't cut out. And again, gatekeeping is good. Some folks are probably better suited for a different outlet. And it's okay to say that. It's not dark and it's not murky to say that. It's okay to say that. I am not a Calvin Klein underwear model. It's okay for me to say that.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's okay if maybe they want to be an actor, not an RPG player. Maybe they do want to be the main character in, Shakespeare's plays. Then go do that.
Right. Not all mediums translate well into RPGs. Don't act like when we play the game that you're playing out a novel, because it doesn't translate. And right.
I mean, to defend, you can't. I mean, you know how I play, Joe. I like to ham it up and get in character, but I also know when it's time to roll dice and kick the crap out of stuff.
Well, and rolling dice. Some folks will say that when you roll the dice, that the dice should serve the story instead of be the story, which is what most traditional role players. The dice results are the story, if there's a story at all, not the other way around. Serving the story isn't D&D, in my opinion. But the phrase I like to use is anybody can play D&D, but D&D isn't, or role-playing isn't for everyone.
Yep.
RPGs aren't for everyone. They're for anyone, but not for everyone.
Yep. Rambler got his comment is to learning your character. He said, this is something that ties into learning to play your character. One of my players had this issue, that is not knowing their character. My solution was to run games exclusively for her on the side. She learned quickly. Yeah, you could if you have the time. Sure. You could do that. That's not a bad
Maybe
solution.
if we had 3 months off.
Yeah, baby. I have no excuses. That's what Ryan's saying. I need to run a game for him individually and Joe individually and Bart individually. What am I doing? I'm a lazy dude. Get my games going.
The guilt trip has been laid.
Sweet.
Try to fit in the group style. If not, then kindly excuse yourself. That's part of being part of the table's culture. I mean, It's a mini culture at your table.
It's part of being polite society's culture.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to the goth clubs like when I was 18, right? I don't fit in that culture. I recognize that I no longer fit in that culture. I mean, I want to fit into some of the ladies of that, but and sometimes it's just easy to slide right. Okay, wrong house, Ryan.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing. I'm wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts right now. I'm not going fine dining this evening, right?
So it's very rude to bust into somebody's house, so to speak, and then demand that everything kind of revolve around you and your sensibilities. You need to fit in. And if everybody at the table already does fit in with you, if you fit in with them, if it's all copacetic, then it works out. But don't drag them kicking and screaming into what you want to do.
This is a bit of a tangent. So Ryan's already earlier talked about how he sometimes doesn't want to play in a certain game because of the composition of the players. And so he excuses himself, which is easy to do online. How does it happen, though? Have you run into a situation where you had a person that didn't fit your group? Not that they were a bad person, but they clearly didn't fit your group. And did you handle it? And how did you handle it? Or did they handle it?
I, as forever DM, tend to be the one that ends up handling it.
Yep.
We'll call him Pastor Pierce, right? That's a good name. Legitimately, pastor for one of our local churches. One of the most self-serving, egotistical players that I've ever had at the table. And we really tried to make it work for him, but it didn't. And I don't know that it was through any fault or awareness of that he had. It's just how he was. We always have snacks. We always have food. Everybody contributes. Bert's told the story on our show. You might have heard it, Randy. Pierce with a box of Cheez-Its. He sat there. They were the Cheez-It flavor that he liked, and he held the box and ate the entire box over the course of 4 hours.
I don't think I heard that.
No.
Wow.
Walked
Okay,
into the
so
house.
if it's jalapeno flavored Cheez-Its and nobody else likes hot food, then have at it, dude.
They were the extra toasty variety.
Oh, those are so good.
Yeah. Yeah, Pierce thought so.
You got to share, dude. No, I can't do that. I can't. Dude, that's bad manners.
It
Bad
was.
manners.
And that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily, he wasn't a player that set the world on fire, but he had general bad manners. And I don't know if it's because in his professional life, he was always top dog, right? He's the boss. It's his church. It's his parish. I don't know. I haven't been to one of those
Humility
for a really long time since I converted, right?
Right.
Humility is a thing with Christianity. You would think.
You would think they were more, I guess you could say, extreme Christians, the particular sect that he was for. But again, I didn't care. Jew convert that's only half a Jew anyhow. I was born Roman Catholic, right?
Half
doesn't
Jew,
matter
half
because
Catholic. Isn't there some word for that?
I don't know.
I remember hearing it.
I went through the whole run. I was fully confirmed. My parents are not Jewish, right?
Mm-hmm.
I fell out of my faith at a late teen, early adult sort of stage. Had nothing for a while, and post my first divorce, one of my good friends was a rabbi and said, "Hey, I'm not converting you, but I want to know why you're at where you're at." And we had this talk, and at the end of the talk, I said, "Well, could you?" Because it was the first thing from a spiritual sense that made sense to me. And anyway, that's for another day.
The dungeon minister, I think he may concur. A self-centered clergyman? Never.
You got it, Dungeon Minister. Point being, it was end of the session. Like, nothing egregious happened. There was no major conflict. But it was, as we're wrapping up, thanks, I'll take your character sheets. Pierce, I don't think that this is going to work out for you, and I'm going to uninvite you to the future sessions. I wish you the best to find another group. There's no ill will here. You're not a good fit for my style or for the group style, and you're impeding on my fun. And so you can blame me, and I'll accept the blame because I have no shame, right? I always use that line when I exit someone from the group. You can blame me, but I have my time for my fun, and when I don't have fun, I make corrections so that I can have fun. And if this means that you're going to hold it personally and we're not going to have a relationship after this, that's okay. And if it means you understand where I'm coming from and we can still go for drinks after this, that's okay too. But this game is no longer a place where you're welcome. And you have to be very clear, very direct, not necessarily rude, although it's interpreted sometimes as rude.
Sure it is.
Oh, and anything can be rude if it's bad news, it's rude. Even if it's,
yeah.
I mean,
true.
Bad news is always going to make you feel a certain way, but that's not rude. That's just, it's bad news.
But it always falls to me, Randy, just because I'm the bad guy, generally speaking, right? If someone's going to play good cop, bad cop, I'm always bad cop.
And you can recommend that he read about the 2 miracles of the loaves and the fishes in the New Testament,
right?
And as a kind of a reminder of how to be in group settings.
Well, funny aside, and then I'll quit commandeering your show.
Oh, cool.
About 18 months after we exited him, his parish also exited him.
Oh.
So.
Okay. And that probably tells a story. I've had
what it is.
2 people directly out of my group that would not have left otherwise. Neither went great. I think I handled it okay, but there was no hanging out afterwards. That was not a thing.
No. So, and that wasn't just those weren't just we didn't mesh. Those were more causing a lot of interpersonal shenanigans.
I'm not even talking about those. Those went without comment. One of them went
Right.
up on it. He knew he was out. But over on Rumble, Patty is over there, Mr. Patty at Patty's Parlor, and he had an interesting question. Do you guys think it's important to have, and I want to finish this too with two questions, to have a DM's job and player's job section in rule books? Or do you think if you have to say it, you don't belong? what do you think?
The role of whatever the DM is supposed to do in all of these different RPG systems, because some of them have different roles, slightly different roles, because we talked about that, should be, because that is a specific thing in all these games, is the judge, referee, DM, GM, whatever. They're supposed to do something specific to them. So, of course, that should be outlined.
Okay.
And then I would say, as far as the player side, it should be brief. There shouldn't be a long whole section of the book on what the player does, because you usually have a player's handbook. And that's, here's your player's handbook. This is your handbook. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, player's handbook, and you have a DM saying, this is what you will do.
Right.
Yes.
In this situation.
At my table, yeah. That's a good point. Could it just fall under this part where RPG books still insist on how do you play a role-playing game section? Might as well. Because honestly, I wonder if that's hardly even useful anymore. I mean, our role-playing is kind of part of society. I guess it is for some folks.
It will be for some. For me, I'd skip that. So
yeah, I just don't know if it's interesting.
I skip the rules all and do all my own thing anyway.
Yeah, you do. I got to keep running this.
I think it's still valuable to have. Like my book that's upcoming in the distant future. Well, we're a quarter of the way to going gold, right? So I guess it's not so bad from nothing. But it's going to have 2 paragraphs, right? And then the rest is up to the table. So,
not to sidetrack real quick, is your game going to be fantasy? I've heard you talking about it. Is it a fantasy game?
It is a fantasy game.
Cool.
It's auras. It's not officially been announced. There's no landing pages for it. That sort of thing. It is a fantasy game, but I wanted to really remove it from what we think of as a typical fantasy game. So you don't have the big 6 stats. You have a completely redesigned check and combat system. It's very different, as would be expected from me, and it might be a success, it might be a failure, but it's something that I'm going to do, and it's coming along not bad. I'm very pleased with it. I think the hardest thing that I've nailed down so far was the magic system. Just because how do you do it and do it differently?
Right.
And that was a challenge. I have 4 groups that are play testing it actively, and all 4 eventually came to the conclusion that the final magic system that's in place is what's there. And a lot of it is very chunky for those of us that like it, but it's still accessible, right? So it's heavy rules light, if that makes any sense.
It doesn't, but I'm
It will once I get it.
I'm excited
in my
to see it.
3D little hands and
I'm
read.
on it. Yeah, it'll be cool.
David Quill, who has some experience at writing books for gaming, he says, I write books as if it's the first RPG you've ever played. Not hard or very long anyway. I think I can see why you would want to do that. Because if you don't, you're going to start making assumptions about who your audience. So if you just write it as if it's to newbies, or at least the sections where it's necessary, especially the how to play role-playing game and make sure everything's nice and clear, I think that's probably your best bet. And those of us who've been playing for a long time, it'll be an easy read for us.
I like Reactionary Principle Gaming with Mr. Maxwell Van said, I think the what is a role-playing game section can be interesting. I agree. I've enjoyed it. They can inform you on their view of the author. In regards to DM's role, I think it helps when games are different sorts of games, when you have different objectives. I mean, we played, probably 15 years for sure, where we never really touched any other game but Dungeons and Dragons. So when we started to slowly eke out, played a little Warhammer, played a little this, a little that, Marvel superheroes was the hardest for us to wrap our mind around because we still wanted to kill the bad guys and take their stuff. We had heroes killing the Hobgoblin and taking
Favorite Marvel?
Yes, favorite Marvel. Yes, sir. So, but we were doing crazy stuff.
That's the only Marvel. Good.
Yeah, that had a theme. I thought that was interesting. And then the Dungeon Minister had a good comment. Joe, you'll appreciate this. Of course, reading old school how to role play, you spend your first game trying to figure out who the caller was.
The caller.
The caller, baby.
The caller and the mapper.
Oh, cool.
There was another one like that too. I can't remember.
Was there
Someone
a
said
caller
it in,
somewhere? Yeah.
There was another role like that. But I can't remember what it was. Someone had mentioned it.
To our buddy over at it's no longer Clerics Wear Ringmail, but it's the Whispering GM. Did you know that
the
Taylor
Whispering GM? Yeah,
I enjoy Taylor
because that's what he does. Because he has to record. He has to record on the down low because of his children sleeping.
He's got a cool cadence, dude. We need to get Taylor back on here. But anyway,
he should be listed under the ASMR channels.
What is ASMR? I know what that is.
I can't remember what it stands for, but it's essentially soothing, something that soothes you.
Oh, yes.
And for other people, it puts them into other. There's other.
Now, is he going to wear lingerie? And does he have? No. Okay.
He
that's
doesn't have special mic.
Success.
Yeah. So ASMR, the clean ASMR is just relaxing, but there are other versions of ASMR that put you in other states of mind that are less clean, shall we say.
Yeah, that's a good
and
question.
There are special mics and mic enhancements that these ASMR people use to make sounds that put people in these states of mind, shall we say, that there's one that is like an ear. An ear.
Give you guys a little sneak peek here, if you want.
Sure, hit us
of what's coming on board here. In auras, everything is pumped down to 4 core stats, right? And cool. From those 4 core stats, all checks come because there's these complementary stats. And if you think about it, I mean, I could show you something really ugly, which I'm going to show you. It's super ugly. It was just a design document sort of thing of mine. But this all came about from a giant Venn diagram, right? So if you think of the core auras and the areas of overlap where there's double or triple overlap, that's it. That's all the stats. And all of the actions that you take are going to be tied to one of those core stats. Obviously, dice are involved. I don't want to say it's a D6 system because it is a D6 buy your way up sort of system. So if you have 2d6, you can roll 2d6 or 1d8, and anything 6 or above is a success. So it's a success system, not necessarily a target system. So people are saying, well, why is 2d6 equivalent to 1d8? Because 1d8 statistically has more chances for success at 6, 7, 8 than just the 2d6s.
So you don't add the 2d6s.
You do not add. You're looking for individual successes pretty much against a target number that's your opponent's aura or complementary aura stat, right? Yeah. But that's the general sort of. I mean, you guys are getting the first real explanation of where things are going. I'm gonna find this other document that I have somewhere that will really explain the auras, and it is ugly. And I'm prefacing that now because it is really just my document.
Well, yours look nice. I'm jealous of Malachi while you look that up. He says he has the expert set and both X-Men box sets of Phase Rip. Oh, man. I wish I hadn't given my crap away. I had so much of that. I sold it.
The expert set. I have the
advanced set, Malachi. The one with
advanced. I have the advanced set.
Do you? Well, if you have that, you don't need the basic then.
Right.
Yeah. No, did you do the arts yourself or is that someone else? Ryan. I think Ryan, yeah.
Ryan has gone robot on us.
He has. Maybe frozen.
There you go.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
This idea, it's been in my brain for about 20 years, but 20 years ago it wasn't feasible to do, or at least it wasn't feasible for me at my point in life to take on this sort of thing. Independent writing and publishing was a lot different and more challenging than now. I think the only common ground that existed was Lulu, because when I first investigated it, that was going to be my publisher, right?
Oh, okay.
But when I really seriously took my notes from oh so long ago and sat down with them 20 years ago, there was this one polarizing topic that was out there called AI art in the world of software. And I said, you know what? I'll do a book that's entirely AI art. It'll be great. It'll have this niche. Boy, did I really have to reconsider when that happened.
really?
Yeah.
And I realized that there's a
Now you're
backlash. So
evil.
well, to sort of accommodate that, and through the design process on its own, I ended up using some of the core AI programming, but curating my own base set, right? So I have my own sample. And that's why, like, people look at it and say, if it's all AI, why is the art so consistent? It looks like there's two distinct artists. And I said, well, because it's not me going out to Midjourney, right? It's a computer in the closet over there that's running an old graphics card cobbled together that takes twice as long as Midjourney, but it's running my sample set and my curation set from all freely available or open sourced artworks, right?
Okay.
And that's where it all came from. And so no, I don't have a great artist, but I did find my horrible design document, and this will make more sense if you can pop it up so Randy can see it.
Oh, I can
This
see.
is the
Can you zoom it some?
sort of the cheesy overview of those auras, and it's really 16 stats, and that's it. And it's really based on just 4 stats.
Okay.
Yeah, I work
I can
in
see it.
software. I can zoom
Four-
it.
The 4 M's.
Control plus.
Everything is
minus.
an M. Now,
Yeah, I
some of
see
the
that.
stats have changed. Yeah.
Morality.
So, it really did. It started as a giant Venn diagram, and 20 years ago when I sat down with it, I was like, oh, I want Dungeons and Dragons and Final Fantasy and Venn diagrams. That's literally what I said. and this is what we've come up with. So, if you are casting a spell, the brilliance or the level of damage that spell might impact is going to be based on your magnificent stat, right? If you are withstanding a blow, it's going to be a combination of your measure and your armor. So it's everything here. And of course, I'm going to have lists that say, okay, these are examples of things that would fall under medicinal. But really, the flexibility, when I say it's a heavy rules light, the flexibility is going to be, well, the DM's ultimately going to make a call. You're going to say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and the DM's going to say, you need 1 success on a mental check, 1 success for part 2 on a mood check, and maybe 3 successes on something else. So you have this dice pool that you could roll all D6s, or you could double up and go up a die category for each one. So 2d6s is a d8, 2d8s is a d10, and so on. You could feasibly be rolling d20s, and everything that's a 6 or above is a success. So if you're doing something very easy that only needs 1 success, and your die pool will facilitate a bigger die, you're going to roll the bigger die. But if you're doing something that's complicated that will require multiple successes, you might want to scale back the actual die that you're using for the roll. And that's sort of where we're at right now. It will make more sense. There's a couple of pages that I wish I could release, but I'm just not ready to do that publicly yet. And it will make sense. But this is, you guys have been the first one to see this horrible design document. And if you want to see where the art was originally, speaking of how much AI has grown in 2 years, let me just scroll down and show you where we were at. It was not good. These are just samples that I ran from my first sample set. It was bad.
Well, some of that's better than the 5th edition Player's Handbook.
I was going to say, yeah. It is.
But no, I've got some stupendous stuff that even I'm amazed at. And of course, part of what I do involves a lot of Illustrator and Photoshop work on what the AI art spits out too. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. It's not just you type in a prompt, it spits out a piece of art, and you say, we're all good.
No. The stuff that you saw that was actually in the layout, each one of those probably represents no less than 4 to 6 hours of retouching. And that's why it's tough, because I'm doing this as a one-man show.
Yeah.
Right.
Right on.
Okie dokie.
Where were we in the
Back
Tell
to
you
the
what, guys.
players' jobs.
And you have to boogie. You were saying
I was gonna say I'm gonna go, but if I can, shill without asking
Do it.
anybody to buy anything.
Do it, bud.
This week and last week too, and through May and through June, Nerdcognito is on the quest to hit 1,000 Twitter followers, and hopefully get those folks to also subscribe at the podcast player of their choice. If you've never seen us, Nerdcognito is an audio-only podcast. We're a weekly, although this week we have a bonus show. If you're a fan of horror movies, Saturday we're going to release a nano Nerdcognito.
Yeah, I like that.
Our lingo for our short shows that go about a half an hour. The normal show's about an hour. But I had this idea that's, I threw out a tweet just randomly, and that's how the best stuff happens. That's how Sparkle Troll was born many years ago. It was some stupid random thing that came out of my brain. But I threw out this tweet and I said, I just found 2 copies of this book, brand new, still shrink wrapped. And I'm going to read one. And I read one, put a tweet out, and it did reasonably well as far as engagement. It was the technical manual to the Death Star.
Oh.
And as an aside, I said, I've got another copy of this book. If Nerdcognito hits 1,000 on Twitter by the end of May, anyone that retweets this and likes it and replies to it will be entered, and I'll send that book out.
Cool.
And
Is this pre-Disney?
This is Rogue One era.
Okay.
Okay.
So one was pretty good.
Still a decent book, though. I did thumb through it. It's not sequel trilogy for sure. Anyway, I have 2 lovely ladies that are very important in my life that help me run the Nerdcognito Twitter account, which is always funny because when the Sparkle Trolls spar, they're like, "You're such a misogynistic male chauvinist," and I'm like, "You're yelling at Gabby or Mia, not me." But regardless, they said, since you're giving this away, do you think it would be egotistical to thank you, Martinson? Awesome. Nerdcognito, podcast player of your choice. We're available everywhere. I hope you love the show. They said, why don't we ask some of the folks that are creators if they have something that they could toss, something small, and we could make this a big to-do, right? And we'll really get there. And folks came out in droves. Shout out on Rumble to Patty's Parlor.
Yeah.
This month, along with my Death Star book, Patty has given up a free art commission. And Patty's Parlor, if you like their art style, it's awesome. He's great.
Yeah.
It's gritty. It's old school. Free art commission. Need I say more?
Can't be done with stick.
Yeah, follow Nerdcognito on Twitter. Find the post. Do the things. Then I had other folks come in line too. Giant Slayer Games is donating a complete miniatures set. It's going to be a tribe of goblins with their ogre leader. Our friends at the Red Room are going to give a copy of their Wretched RPG and some of their modules. Frackbrain Studios, not even launched yet, right? The Kickstarter just completed. Dystopian Dawn. Tony's going to give away a copy of his brand new game. So people have come out and said, we're going to support you. We want to get you there. So the way we're going to get there is follow at Nerdcognito. I don't care if you follow me. I'd like you to follow me. But what's more important is you follow the show and you subscribe to the show and tell folks about the show, right? That's the only way that any of us grow. And it's interesting because I know we've talked before where we're kind of at a point of saturation with audience overlap. So things like this really do expose us to friends that would love the show. And I'm not as polished and filtered on my show as I am here. I might let a little more loose there. I've been called the loudmouth drunken uncle of the OSR. I wear that with pride. But I think that the more that we can grow the audience, the more that our opinion, which isn't a minority opinion, it's just that our voice has never been as loud as our fun, sparkly friends. And we have to overcome them. And the only way we can do that is by spreading the word that, you know, there's a lot of normal grognards out there that want their game back. I mean, I rail against Wizards, I rail against D&D, but I love it. It's what we all grew up on. It's what we've all played, and I want to love it again. And I can't love it where it's at right now. So, win stuff through the Twitter, find the things. June 1st, we're going to kick over the next set of prizes. And like I said, if I have prizes to go all summer, I'll go all summer long.
Nice.
So you don't have to buy anything. Just subscribe and commit. You know, to me, we're having a conversation right now. Hey, Ryan. Hey, you. I'm going to tell at least one of my friends about your show. Okay, that's great. And there's Bert, too. Bert's, I don't know. Bert's Bert. What can I say? How would you describe
Bert's chill. I like Bert. He's
Bert's friendly.
He's a very friendly guy. He's pretty easy going. He doesn't seem to say, I think you guys have a good, it's good. You got kind of like a little sugar and salt going.
We got we have a phone hotline where people can call in, and so far we've only had a handful of arable stuff.
Oh.
Because the Sparkle Trolls found out and they just blasted it, so we made it go off the radar for a while. But we do have a phone number where you can call in, leave a clip, and we'll address it on the show.
All right.
One of the most common things is, Bert, how on earth are you legitimately friends with this guy? This guy. I mean, come on. So, David, Gwill, absolutely. If you want to DM me, you know where to find me. We welcome all creators, or if you have something that you want to toss to support the show, DM me at I Hate Ryan David, or DM the ladies at Nerdcognito. Either one will work. And don't feel obligated either. This was, like I said, one of those off-the-cuff things. We would love to hit 1,000 on Twitter. We'd love to boost up our subscriptions. And the more we support each other, the more we can all do that. So,
yeah. All right,
sounds good.
We'll do, brother.
All right, guys. I am going to jet. I really liked the conversation. I wish you guys were not on Tuesday nights so that I could come by a little more often. But without a doubt, down the road, we have to do it again.
Just
change nights.
Just change your show.
Yeah, we should.
No, but our show has changed nights over the years, and this is where it's ended up. So,
and that's okay. It's not like Joe, I won't be that irritating customer from last week that I was for you.
You were not irritating at all.
I was just trying to get ahead of the ball. That's all. That was inside. No, we're not going to talk about it.
Before you leave, Ironcaster says you should share those audio files. Sounds hilarious to listen to. Of those people that called in to yourself.
Some of them were on my Twitter when prior to my first Twitter suspension.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had to do when I got the mystery email from Mr. Musk was I had to pull certain things down from Twitter. I had to delete a total of 17 tweets.
Wow.
And it was actually laid out for me. It said, "Hey, we understand you were suspended. You have no idea why you were suspended. You're welcome back to the platform, but would you delete these 17 tweets?" And
Wow.
I was already gone at that point for 9 months. So, what the hell? I deleted the tweets. If I still have them, I sure will share them, Caster. Maybe we'll do it on the Weekend Geek.
That'd be cool.
All right.
All right. Well, Ryan, thanks for showing up, bud. We loved it. It was a good time. Anytime, you're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
It was a great time.
Yeah, we will absolutely do this and hook up, or maybe Bert will get sick again, and Randy, you could sit in and co-host an episode, or Joe, you can come back and co-host an episode. So
that'd be fun.
All right.
All right.
I will see you guys. Take care, chat. Have a good night, everybody, and geek on, man.
Good night, buddy.
Good night.
All right. Let's see. I thought I had some.
And the class level just went down.
Look at this. Watsy just announced their new books will be going up $10.
Okay, folks. Prices are going up on everything.
Yeah.
So you got to expect it to some degree. I don't know if there's already been a price bump or not, but it's going to be hard for companies to not do that. There's been an issue with paper for the last at least year. So
yeah.
I'm not trying to, excuse Watsy for whatever, but
I'm not trying to not encouraging you to buy it.
Right. Hey, there's something up here that David Gwill said.
What's
something
David?
About his version, his second edition of his Dungeons and Delvers book is going to be bigger.
A box set, he said. Can we do box sets?
Okay. This is the current size. It is a chunky book. It has girth. I can't imagine. I mean, that's a mule choker there.
David says his prices on BGE aren't going up.
Well, they might go up once we eventually decide to charge a commission, which we still haven't done.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we continue the player's duties?
Yeah. Hey, question though. Can we do box set on Big Geek Emporium or not?
The way a box set would work is the vendor would have to have it produced. This is currently. If you want to have it in a box and it arrive at the customer in a box, that's going to be all on the vendor.
Okay.
We don't have a facility to create boxes and do all that mailing stuff. But you could still sell it through us. We have recently been able to include physical merchandise sales on the site. I don't know if all the bugs are worked out yet, but you can sell a physical product that's not POD. I don't know anybody who does box sets on demand. So you'd have to have everything printed, and then you put your own boxes together and shrink wrap them and send them out, or have a company do that. So I don't know where. I don't know if people would want to be doing that with Biggest Geekest or Big Geek Emporium. It might be easier to do it through a different provider. But if you still want to do it with us, if you want to sell through us, your box sets, your board games and stuff like that, we'll do that.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, let's get back to tell them to do the stuff, though.
Yes. Okay. Hold on a second. Subscribe. If you have not already, subscribe. Check your subscriptions. Make sure that they are current, because these platforms like to pull shenanigans on people for some reason, more YouTube related. What are you doing?
I'm apparently messing with stuff.
Stop it.
Wow. That was kind of cool. Ooh. What's that do?
That's perfectly good right there.
All right.
I know. I knew I should not let you have the power.
No, you should not. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous proposition.
For those who are listening and not watching, Randy is messing with the visual aesthetics of our live stream, and I'm going to think about removing that capability from him.
Do not.
I'm going to think about it.
Okay.
You can't stop me from thinking stuff.
You're correct. I cannot.
Also, hey, head on over to Big Geek Emporium. You will find lots of great stuff, especially Dungeons and Delvers, which is available there, print on demand. It is a chunky book. It is a great value. I think it's $50 or $60, but either one is a great deal for what you get. I have crazy dogs, so if you hear a lot of noise on my end, that's what it's from. But yes, head over to Big Geek Emporium. We have a link there for Big Geek Con. That's in September.
Yeah.
We didn't have a chance to discuss deadlines, but there's probably going to be some kind of graduated deadline. We will announce that later. So we'll have to talk about that after the show.
Yeah, we will. It's going to be. I think we're going to be able to get extended pretty well, but we'll see how it goes.
Right. So, but we need to have 30 folks to make it happen.
3-0.
3-0. Right now we have 4 tickets sold.
Yeah, but we're going to have more.
Right. Guaranteed. So it would behoove the con to have more, to have the 30 as soon as possible. That way, if we get beyond 30, we might be able to sweeten the deal and not just have you show up and play games. We might be able to add T-shirts and do other things. So, that being said, head over to Big Geek Emporium, check out what we've got there, and follow the link to Big Geek Con and buy your ticket. It's only $30 for 2 days of gaming.
Dude, what a deal.
If you're local in Michigan, it's a great deal. Even if you're out of town, you don't have to spend a whole lot to do the gaming like in other cons. And if we have a good showing this year, we might be able to have it more days next time around.
Yeah, Flady asked a good question. He said, David Gow, you going to Big Geek Con? He'd like to get his books autographed. I think David should think about it seriously.
He's on the other side of the country. We would love to have David Guell here.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. You know what? If he can show up, we might be able to set him up with his own table for signing.
Right on.
You know, taking pictures. You know, because he would be guest of honor.
Well, it's not set in stone. We might have the Horde War guys too. That would be cool. So.
Oh, that's right. He lives on a farm.
Yeah.
So he just said they have livestock. He can't be gone. It's difficult. That's why me and the wife don't go a whole lot of places. We don't have livestock, but we have pets. We have a lot of pets.
Aminals will do that to you.
We now have like 50,000 birds.
Dude. Okay, let's get back to that topic. We wrap that up and get to the campaign stuff.
Yeah. So the next thing is realize your PC isn't the star and could bite the bullet. There's plenty of extra paper to make a new PC. That's a lot to say. Your character can die. Get over yourself.
Right on.
So different games. This is our niche within a niche. D&D and traditional gaming. You don't worry about whether or not your character dies. You jump into the action. If your character dies, it's easy to make a new character. Other systems have lots of ways to handhold your character into not dying, and there's more. The traditional way. Let me say this: the traditional way of playing is more gamey.
Yes.
Some of the more modern games, they are more story. So it's really jarring to a story when players die. Well, when characters die. It's even more jarring when players die.
When
characters die, it's jarring to the story. But that's the nature of the game. the emergent story in a role playing game has to take into consideration character death.
Yeah, I think it's. I get people talk about. I spent 3 hours making my character. What?
Sorry, I just thought of to say something with regard to autographs.
Yes.
There's a way to do autographs with book plates. So you can get a book plate.
Oh.
So all you folks who are listening who make their games print on demand, who would like to be able to provide autographs to people who want them, especially if you can't meet them in person, you can have book plates. And I don't know if we can do that at Big Geek Emporium, but that's a thing. So book plates, look it up. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry, I was going to forget.
It's all good. Old man moment. So if people, I've heard people say, well, it sucks if you make a character, spent 3 hours making your character, and then they die. I guess so. Here's Darth Thick. He says, I agree. I had a character die that I had worked hard on and played for about 6 months. It pissed me off. Yeah, I did throw a small fit, and 20 minutes later, had a new character ready to join the game. And, I understand when it takes a long time. But I guess part of me is just like, it's a game, right? It's going to happen. If danger's not on the menu, why are we playing? It's not an exciting adventure, right?
No, I mean, okay, stakes are important. It's like reading a novel or watching a movie where it's action oriented. If there's the stakes draw you in and makes it kind of personal for you. And if there's no stakes, and it's a piece of paper. It's not like there's real stakes in the real world, but it has a similar psychological effect. So stakes make it have more gravitas, more meaning.
It does.
So if there are no stakes and it's just, like watching a sitcom, then, that's, it's not the same. It's not the same gameplay. It's not the same feel.
Or you're watching it, or it feels like watching a prequel where the hero can't die. That's hard to pull off engaging wise. It's been done, but it's hard to do in the movies and definitely at the table. If you're like, we talked about, there was a time when we talked about people were saying, I was hearing some talk of games where players only die if they want to. And I'm like, characters only die if they want to. And I'm like, I was thinking about it, but it just I'm just not at that point anymore. Yeah. What about the next two interest me, Joe, because I think you might have an opinion. Pretty strong one. Do not try to break the game with your Uber PC. Also, don't overly gimp your character to become a drain on the group. What do you think of that?
Yeah, both are kind of bad. I mean, if you purposely, there are some, it depends. Okay.
Yes, sure.
So let's say you're playing a new system and you're trying to, kick the tires on it, so to speak. Maybe you do want to, just to see how things work. See, push the boundaries and limits and see how it works out. That might be fine. It might be fun, but you're not you shouldn't purposefully try to break the game due to you wanting to have a super powerful, like a Superman character,
right?
In like in D&D, that doesn't work.
Right.
And if your desire is to always win, and then you're quote unquote breaking the game and you're making it hard for the DM and other players, it's just a bad time for everybody.
Yeah, and I've said it before, but to give this guy some credit to up here with me on the show, he always is like, if we would level up, saying we were heavy into 3-5, and you had the feats and the spells and the this and the that. If he made something that he was like, oh my God, this is a huge power up, or this is a potential complete encounter ender, because he loved playing wizards, he would often say, Randy, I want you to know I took this spell and I feel like it's pretty awesome. And usually if he would say that, I would be like, you know what, let's see what happens. Because Joe is, because if I thought it was too powerful, I'm probably only 50-50 right. If Joe thinks it's too powerful, it's too powerful. I mean, that's true. If Joe's wondering, there's a shot that it's too much. And I appreciate
it. And I always bring up Oh, what's the one where you take someone's body? The 5th level spell where you take someone's body.
Magic Jar.
Magic Jar. Normal gameplay, it's only so effective, right? Because you don't know what's in the next room. It may not be a big deal if you take over its body. What's if it's a mushroom? You can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, but if it's a town, if it's urban, if it's political, Magic Jar can wreck things.
Yes, it can.
Once you hit that level, you get that spell, it can wreck a campaign. Or it could. So either you have, as a DM, or you're constantly trying to design your adventure in such a way, in your world in such a way, to take into account all of these weirdo spells, which is nearly impossible. Or you do it piecemeal. Your new wizard gets Magic Jar, and then he Magic Jars the king.
Yep.
You could, as a DM, just say, well, he has his crown prevents it. So
right, you could
screw you. Yeah, you pull cheese all the time, either way, player or DM. And that ends up being no fun either.
I'll read this Point Blake's comment. Min-maxers get the crosshairs put on them in my game. If you want to be the biggest threat, then the monsters will treat you as such. I think there's something to be said if monsters can somehow determine that. Yes, I wouldn't as a DM just go after them because they're the toughest. But even Joe said that before. If I cast this spell, he goes, you do know that I would probably have painted a target on myself. Because he's done that. He's cast a spell that wiped out everybody but maybe the big bad guy. And so Joe expected full well and usually got the big bad guy. Said, oh, that's what you can do? Well, let me fix your little red wagon.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. And what was that one spell in Unearth and Arcana Evolved that had defensive shield? I just thought was unbelievably broken until that dire bear got a hold of you. Then I was like, yeah, it's not that broken. That basically just saved you from getting ripped into pieces. That was it.
Right. Until So if they have a follow-up, then it's not that great. But
you had a party. They helped you out. But like for a round, you were soloing as a wizard, a dire bear, and you're like, holy crap. And like after I hit him, Joe's like, I want you to know I have 1 hit point left of my shield. And I was like, oh crap. Okay. And they were at the level where a dire bear is not that big of a threat, but for a lone wizard, he's a big threat. If he's right in space.
And still is. It's just affords you a chance to either get off another spell, run, or something like that. It's not game breaking. It's just game altering.
Point Blank says PCs do it. They circle around the big baddie and take him out first, so it's fair. I think it is fair. I think
it is.
You can make arguments that yes, halfway intelligent monsters, or even monsters that are crafty, could be like, look, I've seen pointy hat dudes, and they killed a lot of my kin. So, and if there's an intelligent guy, the players said they did it last time in the Hyperborea, kill the caster.
And they had both ended up being casters, so it didn't matter.
But the second caster, he was more of a meleeist, but you guys just, I'm going to talk about that. That fight was weaker than I thought, but I think I needed a couple of zombies. So
yeah, probably did.
Yeah. But the Gimpy character is also one that I used to think was neat. But
I made one and it lasted very short time and it wasn't very fun.
Right. I think it could. I think having a flaw is cool in your character. I've actually challenged. I've actually wanted someone to take the challenge of playing a character, and this sounds weird, with all 18s. And you say, "Oh, that's not a challenge." It could be, because you would be like Mr. Perfect, right? I mean, how could your confidence not be through the roof, even if you weren't arrogant?
Right.
It'd be interesting to see that, especially at first level. How long would they last? So, yeah.
Yeah. With a character with all 18s, you're going to have some psychological issues going along with, I've got all 18s. I got to be careful so my character doesn't just die all of a sudden, because I want this character to last forever. And so you're going to, on the one hand, want to be cautious, but on the other hand, your character is the golden boy.
Yep.
You're not going to be that way. You're going to be.
Where have you failed in your life? I'll tell you, nowhere.
Nowhere.
You're good looking, you're charismatic, you're wise, you're intelligent, you're fast, you're strong, your constitution. You've hardly ever had a cold. I mean, you're just
Right.
unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean you got to be arrogant, but you be like, don't worry, guys, we can handle this. Why?
Right.
You got me. I mean,
I'm here.
I'm not lying. It's just true.
Right.
I don't think you should be overly cautious either, dude. I find that kind of annoying. And that's one thing Joe doesn't do. I hate overly cautious.
Oh, there's a door, and then everybody shuts up.
Yeah.
That's what I hate worse than anything. There's a door here, and nobody wants to open it. The character who might be able to pick the lock. Oh, I can pick locks? Oh, that's right. I guess I should go up there and do my job.
Yeah. You search now.
Really, really annoying.
Yeah. You've searched an hour, right? And you can't find an entrance into the tomb. And the door is carved in runes and intricate locks. Guess what you got to do? You got to go through the door. Just step up and do it. Yeah.
If the game is long term, try to get the money to invest in a copy of the rules.
I think that caveat is good. I get it. If the money's really tight, fine. I was telling Deb, we periodically dream about winning the lottery. If I won a lottery, I would probably buy my neighbor's house next door, and I would build my dungeon underneath the ground. And I said, what I would do is buy every game that I play consistently, I would buy 5 or 6 books. And the players that didn't have one would have one at the table every time. It would be there. I don't know if I'd let them take it home. I might, probably would. I don't care that much, but I definitely have them at the table. That would be cool. But I can't afford $60 books. So, yeah, I think that's true. I think like right now we're playing Hyperborea. We'll talk about that soon. I don't expect people to buy Hyperborea. You have a copy. I have a copy. Jeff's probably getting the PDF. I need to send a message to someone else about that. And I think
it's a bit pricey.
It's a bit pricey. It's a bit early. Though I'll tell you what, I thought about it all week. I thought about it every day since. I really enjoy the game. But I would hope if we play it for 6 months and we're still into it, people thinking about buying that book. At least a couple of them. It'd be nice to have 3 or 4 books at the table.
And there's ways to buy these games. Flady just said something about bargain bin. Sometimes you can find factory seconds and where maybe the cover's scuffed and they don't want to sell it at full price. I know there's a website that sells game books and they do have scratch and dent.
Yes.
Noble Knight. I think Noble Knight does that.
Oh, okay.
I think. It might be a different site, but right. The last one on here is do not cheat. There's no point to it. DM or player.
Agree.
Now, some people will say the DM can't cheat, but yes, the DM can cheat by fudging the dice, having an encounter structured a certain way, and then the players kick that encounter in the nuts, and the DM's like, "Oh, I'll show them," and then they'll just throw in more monsters when that wasn't the plan. That's kind of cheating.
Yes.
But yeah, but I think primarily the do not cheat is a version of don't fudge the dice. Let the game play the way it plays.
Right.
Because that's the only way you're going to know if you like playing the game. If you're cheating, then you're not really playing the game.
Yeah.
And fudging the dice does the same thing. Let the game play out.
Yeah.
If you were always fudging the dice or whatever, then you should probably play something else.
Yeah, it just drives me crazy. I don't get it when people do that. I just don't. I mean, how can it mean that much to you to cheat at a role-playing game? I mean, I don't know. Any game, really.
Yeah, this might be what I'm thinking of. Troll Games
they do that. Yes.
Yeah.
And how much can you get Hyperborea for at drive-through, I wonder?
Or maybe go to Amazon. They might be able to get a break there.
It's only $50-something anyway, but that is kind of pricey.
Most fairly dense or thick books are in the $50 to $60 range. I have mine somewhere around here.
Yeah, and that is definitely a dense book. I can't seem to find it on drive-through. I figured it would be on there. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm dreaming. It's called Hyperborea, right? RPG. Yep, can't find it. So there you go. Weird.
Yeah, they may not. I think it's on It's on Amazon, I thought.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I was just thinking the PDF can't be all that bad, but maybe it's expensive. Anything else you think players should do? We had a lot of good advice, or you feel like we kind of hit the majority?
I think we beat that one in the ground.
I like it. Pummel that dude. Sweet. It's good to pummel players. I mean, pummel that topic.
Well, you're not just sitting down and doing some, doing things willy-nilly.
It's not a board, not a board game.
Our hobby,
yeah.
Our hobby has certain traditions, you can say, that are part of the game. You have a DM and you have players, and they interact in particular ways, and that's how this hobby runs. It's not just whatever. You don't just sit down and do whatever.
Right.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. So our next topic, we're going to talk about Hyperborea.
Yes.
We have mentioned it a little bit throughout the previous topic, but we played Hyperborea on Saturday.
Yes.
Almost didn't happen, but it was kind of fluid there for a while.
Yeah, it was. It's happening. It's not. It's happening. It's not. Cool.
Yeah.
It happened.
But we played and we had a lot of fun. So you want to talk about what your perspective there, dude?
Yeah. So what I found is that I actually love. I used to hate this about D&D if they would bring in like, not the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. I don't want sci-fi in my fantasy chocolate. That sci-fi peanut butter, but I did like the idea of that being part of the world. I love the kind of grittiness of it and kind of the encouragement for you guys to play a bit of a mercenary role, not fully mercenary, but a bit of one. You can be heroic. I liked how the game, I like the differences in classes. This is one of the old school games where I really feel like almost every single class felt somewhat unique. Barbarian Berserker had some overlap. Ranger Huntsman have some overlap, but they're a little bit different. Malachi says blasphemy for something. I'm not sure what he said. Oh, sci-fi. I kind of like it for Hyperborea, but I'm not playing D&D. I'm playing Hyperborea, and it's okay. Getting a little bit like Max at Legion of Myth.
And even if you're playing Hyperborea, if you don't want sci-fi, you don't have to have it in there.
True. You can just ignore that part. And
ignore it.
I like the combat matrix, the little list on your chart, on your paper, the chart on your paper at the bottom. I think that's pretty. If you have the official character sheet, it's not a bad way to play. Just think, because you get to add your bonuses in and just look at the chart to see if you're going to hit. And of course, you can use Thaco quickly too. Those that want to, you can Thaco that thing easily enough.
Yeah, very easy.
Very easy. You can even change it to base attack bonus pretty easy. Then your fighting ability, FA, becomes a +1 to hit, +2 to hit. What did you think of your Huntsman? He seemed pretty cool.
I liked him.
Yeah.
He was cool. He was essentially a ranger without spells, essentially. He had some outdoor skills. Within the difference between like just taking the spells out of the ranger and this character is the way that they are part of the setting. And in the setting, the huntsman, they hunt down werewolves. And part of their character abilities, once you get to a particular level, are to slay werewolves. But they're outdoorsmen, and they hunt well. A lot of their abilities are geared to the wilderness and hunting and dealing with animals. And they can create pets for themselves by essentially taming animals or large animals, regular or large animals. And it's pretty cool.
And I was using a pre-made module, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's got a lot of... I think it's got a good introduction to the world. One of my biggest, it's not a gripe, but I wasn't as fully prepared as I normally was. I was kind of winging it a little bit. I had read the whole module, but only had learned about half of it. And you guys didn't get past me, thank goodness. But we were kind of playing some things by ear. I made some quote unquote skill checks with ability checks that one time with a paladin player off the cuff, and I think that's fine. It doesn't seem to suffer from any kind of, I don't see any kind of bloat possible. I've never seen enough stuff coming out of Hyperborea that it would probably get too bogged down with heavy things like extra books and stuff. So I kind of like that. There's plenty. I'm sure there's hacks on the internet. I don't know. 12th level, we'll see when we get there. Experience points. I'm intrigued to play with different experience points for different classes. Pleased my first session. It was good. And we had 5 players and it was fun. So
right.
Well,
There's not a bloat in material, so I doubt there's going to be there's a limited number of selections that you can make at character creation.
Correct.
And when you level, so I don't believe that there's going to be any issue with any of that hacking the game. There's probably there might be better choices compared to others, but I don't see it. What are you doing?
She was looking out the window a minute ago.
Yeah. That's my dog. It was for those who are watching. This is our newest dog, Elizabeth. Can't see her too well right there. Hi. She's
Are you
a plot hound.
Are you off Sunday and Monday?
And Tuesday.
Would you be
But we're going, we might be out of town a lot on Monday.
Okay. I was going to say, would you be interested in gaming Sunday afternoon after church? Think about it.
We'll look into it.
Yeah, think about it. Overall, did you see anything glaring, things you're concerned about, things you didn't really like? I have one thing, more of a question than a complaint.
I don't think so. I think I'm good. For what it is, I think it's good.
Did you like the melee, missiles, magic movement?
It's old school.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't think there's really what it resolves is the caster always getting their spell off on their turn and having very little way to deal with that.
How would you feel about? Could we? I'm not.
So once you commit to casting a spell,
yes,
you're committed.
Right.
And then someone can walk up to you and smack you in the head, and you lose your spell.
Because you guys disrupted that one caster spell at the end.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that's cool. Do you think we could implement the Horde Wars initiative into this at all? Or is that too much?
I don't remember it specifically.
That's the one where everybody rolls initiative, and then whoever beats the DM first going around the left.
Oh, yeah, order-wise.
But that would change. Then how would we do the melee, missiles, magic, movement thing, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to.
Unless you could say you go first as long as you are meleeing.
Now, you might still be able to put that declare thing in there.
Yeah.
And when you declare, stop it. You roll. You don't need to roll initiative. You declare before you roll, and then you roll. Mm-hmm. So if you've declared you're going to cast a spell, then you're casting a spell.
Yeah.
And you still cycle through initiative. That part will work out fine. I don't think that it's all that big of a deal whether missile and melee and movement. I mean, that's just a preference. I don't think it's really game affecting.
Rejoice85, who played the Paladin, I liked in-character creation, randomly rolling on my background. Sure you did, because you rolled like a demon. Or Paladin was insane. 17 intelligence on 3d6. Holy crap. She was awesome. That was fun, though. I like the method I used for rolling characters. You guys pick characters from the Waves of Borea, but I also like I'd like to see people try that out for when character dies, because I'm sure they're going to die. There's lots of ways to die in Hyperborea. But where you roll 3d6 for all the stats that are not prerequisites, and then you roll 4d6 until you get the minimum. It's really generous, but I mean on the Prime Rex, but it was kind of cool. Yeah, Pat,
you can game that by picking a type of character that has a lot of prereqs, because they don't all just have 2. Some of them have 3.
Yeah, 4. I think the Barbarian has. I was listening to Legion of Myth on the podcast. That's when I want to listen to it. Schmendrick the Magician enters the chat. Who is Rudy? Welcome, Rudy. But I like I like how Max at Legion is going through the character classes. I'm behind, but I'm listening. And there's one class or two classes that have 3 or 4 prereqs. I think it's
Right.
the Ranger and the Barbarian. So, yeah.
Now, when you do 46, is it 46 drop lowest?
46 drop lowest until you at least get the minimum.
Yeah.
But when minimums are low, it's not that great. Like a minimum of 9, you could get that pretty easy on 46 drop lowest.
Yeah, but the ones that have the I think the Paladin has pretty high minimums.
Yep.
Okay. I got to deal with this right quick.
You need to take her out? I got it. If you got to go.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I take her out, but I'm going to deal with it. Hold on.
All right, cool. So, yeah, we had a good time. It was 5 of us. I was hoping Mr. Patrick could join his wife. That would have been cool, but didn't work out. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in this campaign analysis segment was the idea of homebrew versus published or pre-made worlds. And I am running Hyperborea mostly as written because I don't know much about it. I thought it was neat. I did have a hard time with the Scandinavian names in the module. Yes, I agree, Nerdy Ogre. I should have them escape, but I can't guarantee it. And there was no big bad in this particular module. They kind of killed him. So it was just a low-level, first-level adventure. But they had a lot of Scandinavian names, and even Rejoice 85, the Paladin player, actually rolled a Viking type, the one from Vinland, and she got one of the names, and they are just, wow, they're hard to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's annoying. It is annoying.
It's annoying, but it's kind of, and even the ones in Waves of Borea, those names for those pre-gen characters were kind of deranged. I mean, I liked them, but they were like, I guess they're flavorful, but like your wife and our buddy Greg, they picked their own name. Was it Samuel and Jace? And that worked out pretty. They're like, they're the easiest to deal with. Yeah.
Right. The character's name that I picked out from that Waves of Borea.
Yeah.
It was with whatever I rolled randomly. It's Gonixor. Ploor. Ploor is the last name. Gonixor is the first name. Gonixor. Now, honestly, it gives some flavor.
There's Rejoice's character's name.
Ingigurder.
Ingigurder. They're probably going to call her Ingy for short.
Right.
But yeah.
So it's so odd.
Yeah. But
is it all of the different ethnicities, or is it just a couple of them that have the really odd names?
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in the DM's book. I need to get. I'm done with the player's book. I'm about a third of the way through the DM's book. I'm getting right now to because they talked about the weather patterns. Because the world being hexagonal flat landmass where water you can actually go over the edge of the world is really cool. Exactly. I think we were holding this back. I'm hearing the Swedish chef in my head. Exactly. It was like there was a guy in the town called Gunnar, but I called him Gunnar. That was fine. The first names sometimes weren't bad, but sometimes they were impossible to read too. But I haven't got that far in the world, but I guess it's probably, it seems like Talanian, the writer of the book, he makes an effort to write kind of what I would call old Gygaxian style. He uses very interesting words. He spells surprise with a Z. I think Max at Legion of Myth mentioned that in his first run through. I want to get through all the podcasts because I don't listen to them so much on the videos, but I listen to their podcasts. I know they're behind, but I like when he goes through the books, and it's fun to listen to him and Heathen Dog do that. And plus, if you're playing that game, it's really useful. Was there anything that bothers you about the setting or the fact? The big idea was of this particular topic was homemade versus pre-made worlds, and I'm using a pre-made world, but it's going to become my own. It's not going to be just stick to the book all the time. I've already changed it.
No, the only thing was the weird, hard to pronounce names, and it's the same problem I have with them when I'm reading books and they're reading novels. It's jarring when you're reading a novel and you're like, this is cool. And then this big or just hard to pronounce name, you're looking at it, you're like, how do you pronounce that? And then you've lost whatever momentum you've gotten when you're reading. And like, it's so it's irritating.
I won't give the full name of the module that I'm running, and please don't anybody write it in the chat because I got people that are playing it. But they're running a game that's part of the title is the Trapper's Lament, and it's one of their, I think their first one written since third edition of Hyperborea came out. Because you guys were hired to find this trapper, right? Oh, I guess you know already. He's dead. You had to kill him. So it's called the Late Trapper's Lament is the name of the module. And you guys are sort of done, but not really. I mean, kind of. You sort of done what you've asked. You can get back and be done. It's up to you guys whether you want to go back and explore the other hallway that was dark. But I think it's really well written. I think the author of the module, who is not Talanian, does a good job of following up in his language. And it's all about the Vinland Saga and all the Vinland area, not Vinland Saga, the Vinland Isles. And I think they got the whole Viking thing going very well. Yeah, Mr. Boivan, Reactionary Principle Gaming. I never try to pronounce names when I read a novel. Then I want to talk about it to someone, and I realize I don't know how any of those names are pronounced. Yeah, Drizzt, Dritz. I called him Dritz forever. So I don't know.
Dune, right? The Dune novel. There are a few.
Yeah.
A few. And there's a pronunciation guide in there somewhere in one of the editions. But it's not that many. In some books, it's like all the names are hard to pronounce or they're weird. You're like, oh, come on.
Who was the guy? Not Bernie. Who was the guy that was his buddy? Was Paul's buddy? Paul Atreides' friend. Gurney.
Gurney Halleck.
You get the weird names in Gurney. Gurney's easy to pronounce.
Yeah. Duncan, Idaho.
Yeah.
Who was one of his trainers. Yeah.
I think right now where I stand, I prefer pre-made worlds. I want the world building done for me. Then I'll just change it as I go. Yeah, Duncan, Idaho. That's a good one. So Raceland. Yeah, Malachi. Those are good names. Do you have? I guess you probably don't have much of a preference, right, when you're playing, whether it's
pre-made or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. Doesn't bother me one way or the other.
Yeah, and what advantages do you think a homebrew world has over pre-made? Anything?
On the player side, I don't think there really is one. It all depends on the presentation the DM gives.
Right.
So, for a DM, a pre-made world can give you a framework to make your own. So that is probably the best thing about pre-made world. Some people will feel that they have their hands tied to some degree as far as what's what in that game world, but that's kind of silly. I mean, use what you want, ignore what you don't want. It's very easy to do.
Now, if you're a player, collects a lot of books, you read about the realms, you read about Greyhawk, you know a lot of the published worlds in different games. If a DM does his own homebrew, you can be a little surprised. And you got something that could be an advantage of a homebrew. If the DM does a good job, you're like, hey, I have no idea what Randy's blah, blah, blah campaign is about. So I'm about to learn a whole lot of stuff. If you're that player who likes to learn how the world works.
Now, there are some purists. So there you got Forgotten Realms purists and Greyhawk purists, and they don't want to make it their own. They're fine with just using it as written. That's them.
Yeah, and that's fine too. Do if you want to.
Yeah. So I don't think there's really anything wrong with a pre-made world.
I don't either. I think there can be disadvantages from those. If you have a player like that, that's kind of an annoying jerk and wants to tell you how things are. That's not what the Red Wizards of Thay would do. It's like, whatever, dude. It's still my world. So, but I don't want to harp on that. To me, half a dozen of one, six of the other. I've done both. I think right now, where I'm at right now in terms of prep, I prefer pre-made worlds. I don't want to make my own right now.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's true.
That makes sense.
Martinson says the GM knows the world better in homebrew as he was the one that's created it. That's mostly true. I have, however, created stuff and then forgotten in play something that I created. So it's annoying.
That sure can happen.
It sure can. I wrote it. I should know who the bad guy is. I haven't gone that far, but yeah. All right. So overall, thumbs up. If you were to rate it as, with just one session under our belt on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you like Hyperborea? Can you do that?
Oh, I'd give it an 8, I think.
Yeah, me too. Like a good strong, an 8 with a bullet. It could be something I could really love for a while.
Right. I
Yeah.
think the things that bring it down from an 8 are a lack of play. So we need to play some more to really give it a good rating.
Yeah.
And this weird, unnecessarily weird names.
Yeah. But we could always boot those. There's no
Right.
reason.
I mean, the good thing is none of the game mechanics elements have weird names like that. That's in the setting, and that can be easily looked over. You can rename everything, and it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Mr. Max Boivin says world lawyers are worse than rules lawyers. I don't disagree, because it's kind of like, don't tell me how my world. The Red Wizards of Thay in my world, by the way, are lawful good. So shut up. I don't know what to tell you. So.
And that is kind of that's a reaction to folks that are so married to the novelizations of all of these game worlds and the canon, so to speak, of these game worlds. They imagine themselves in it, which we all do when we read these novels. We imagine, part of it is imagining yourself there to some degree, or what it would be like if you were, and that's all cool. But they're purists, a lot of them, and when you stray from the core material, it's jarring for them. So I could understand that, but
I mean, it'd be fun
if the DM says something like, "Hey, I'm playing Forgotten Realms, but I'm doing it my own way," then they shouldn't worry about the canon.
Probably should expect some real basic stuff, and that's about it. The rest of it will be whatever. Yeah. All right. So Hyperborea, hopefully we will play again soon. I actually secretly hope we get to play this weekend, but who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
all right.
I don't know. Before we go, Rudy mentioned this. I don't recall this. Just remember what 4th edition D&D novels did to destroy the setting. I didn't know was that the Spell Plague? I think that was the Spell
Plague. It might have been.
I think so.
I haven't read D&D novels in such a long time.
Right.
I really don't like many of them.
I remember folks getting really irate in the Forgotten Realms, and I think it was due to the spell plague starting so many years later, where I don't know, Dritz had died or certain people had died, and it was really weird. And I don't know if they stuck to that in 5th edition, or I think they turned that all. I think they dialed that all back. So
it's like the comic books.
Yeah,
back and forth. Spell plague. Yeah, I think he's saying yep to spell plague. All right.
Yep.
Are we ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. So we already talked about Big Geek Con a little earlier. So we can probably just burn really through that.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything to add.
Nothing to add. Sign up. Join us. It'll be fun.
Head over to Big Geek Emporium. We have a link there right to the Big Geek Con. I'm also going to put a link in the description. So
cool. Anything else from Big Geek Emporium or anything at all?
Not really. There's some technical issues we got to work out the next couple of days. There's some issues with loading up images and such. So hopefully we can get that worked out. It seems to be an ongoing. The devs do something, file permissions change, people aren't able to upload images or whatever, and it's annoying. Hopefully we can resolve that soon.
Okay, man. Cool.
Anything else?
Nothing from me.
All right. Well, we've already talked about this, but if you'd like to support the show, please like, subscribe, and share this show on YouTube and Rumble with your friends. Share them with your friends.
Yes.
We have looks like we had 78 pairs of eyeballs on our Rumble channel, which is pretty dang good.
Dang, that's awesome here.
We have 16 followers over there now, which is pretty cool also. Hopefully we can ramp that up pretty fast. Yeah. Rumble is cool. There's people who just don't want to do YouTube and prefer watching to listening. So this is going to be their outlet. So yeah, head on over to Rumble if you prefer that. We don't care. Don't unsubscribe here on YouTube. Leave that alone. I would ask. But yes, subscribe, and share. wherever you're listening to, whatever platform you find us at, whether you are watching us or listening. Head on over to Big Geek Emporium, where you can find a lot of cool indie games. This is one of them, Dungeons and Delvers.
Yes, sir.
You can get this in PDF and POD. There are 2 versions. One is a D20 type system, and the other one is Dice Pool. So I believe both are print on demand at this point. So, do that. You can, if you like Rumble and you want to support us monetarily, you can do a Rumble rant. We got it. And again, thank you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, I can't back up very far. Death Dog. Thank you to Death Dog for your $10 rant today.
Yeah, dude. What a cool dude.
Yeah, very cool. All right. And you can also, if you have any questions, we are the geeks at biggestgeekspodcast.com. Anything else from your side over there, Mr. Randy?
Green Apple asked me about my adventure. I haven't talked about it for a while. As far as I'm concerned, it is done. The writing is done. The art is done. Going to get some help with layout, and then I think it's going to be ready to be put out in PDF, baby. Big Geek
Sounds good.
I want to print some out, so have some. Hopefully, hope to have some available at Big Geek Con. So that'd be cool.
Some printed out.
I want to go to Lulu, give me about 10 or 20 of them. Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah, excited.
That'll be great.
That will be.
That'll be great. Well, David Will is good on getting all that kind of stuff set up through Lulu. Yep. Maybe we will have another printer by then.
Yep.
I haven't heard anything. It's a kind of an ongoing saga with that. But if we can, we are working on a different print-on-demand provider. Hopefully that works out.
Cool.
Anyway, with all that being said, this is Joe.
And this is Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.